Yo, what's going on today, guys? My name's Jack. I'm the host of Bar4Bar podcast, and welcome back, man. Welcome back. I'm so happy to be back. I'm so happy to be recording again. The reason I haven't been recently is just because I've been working a full-time job, been super busy with that, and that's really just been super time-consuming, and hasn't physically given me the time to work on the podcast. But recently I left that job, and I will now be working somewhere else hopefully soon. But in the meantime, I'm really looking forward to actually getting some episodes out. And this is the last thing I'll say, and then I'll hop into what we're saying to what we're doing today, guys. Is I plan on incorporating. So if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Radio Breaker, whatever, or Radio Public, whatever it might be, I do have a YouTube channel for the podcast, and usually it is only audio, just audio versions of the podcast just posted to YouTube, which is actually where the majority of my viewership comes from. So, but shout out to all platforms, shout out to listeners on all platforms. But I recently have considered actually putting content like aside from the podcast on the channel. Now, this would be a hope like a midterm to long term type ordeal where I'd have to figure out how that would go, and I want a consistent upload schedule because I have not even had that with the podcast, which is disappointing. But I really need to make sure there's a consistent input or output of content going out through there. So just want to keep you guys updated on that and be totally transparent with you guys about all this. And yeah, again, I always appreciate all the feedback. I always appreciate all you guys listening and commenting and letting me know what you thought of the episode, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because it helps me improve, helps me know how to prepare, helps me know what to figure out what to talk about. So the first thing we're going to talk about today, guys, is an Atlanta rapper who I did not really expect to ever make comments about this, much less it ever come up in a conversation. But the reason it came up in a conversation is this. So Young Thug, right, was on T.I.'s podcast recently. I think it's called Expeditiously. And T.I., it came up at one point, T.I. asked Thugger about his Jeffrey album cover. And he goes, why the hell were you wearing a dress on it? And basically, and insinuated that, no, he didn't insinuate. He told him, he's like, I think you wore it for attention. And Thugger goes, no, there were like, and he goes, no, I swear to God, like there were new shoes I bought and the dress messed the shoes. And that's like the most Thugger thing he could possibly say. But so I can't think he's lying. It sounds like a reason Thugger would. But anyway, T.I. was laughing about it. He goes, oh, well, anyway, besides that, I was like telling people in your defense, Andre 3 Stacks, another Atlanta hip hop legend, wore a dress as well. And Thugger goes very calmly, he's like, I couldn't rap you two Andre 3 Stacks songs. And T.I. was kind of shook. He's like, man, you're missing out. And he's like, you got to hop on that with Andre, just like you hopped on a song with Elton John. And essentially Thugger replied where he's just like, look, I'm gonna make it basic for you. Elton John likes to kiss ass. He was telling, he's because he listens to the music, and that and this is Thugger's words. I'm not quoting exactly the whole thing, but he did say Elton likes to kiss ass, which is an immediate red flag to me because that's Elton John, and he was. And it's not like Elton John frequently collabs with hip hop artists, so it's like you would think he'd show him a little more respect than that. But he goes on to say that basically Andre likes his ass kissed, and so that's why, and then yada yada yada, going on, and he just basically proceeded to just disrespect Andre. Almost blatantly, not like in a super like insulting manner, but like it sounded like he was just being brutally honest. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. Like, I do think Thugger really feels this way about it, which surprises me because I think he had more respect for an Atlanta hip hop legend, one of the greatest hip hop artists to ever walk the planet. But at the same time, he's Thugger. He's gonna talk out of pocket sometimes, but. A few things I got from this interview. One, like I said, I don't think Thugger was talking just out of his ass. I think he really meant all this shit, and I don't think he intended for it to come off the way it did. I will say that much in Thugger's defense. However, you cannot just simply. There is no Atlanta rapper that has the past to blatantly disrespect Andre 3000, and that's the first thing that is. It's kind of a given, This man. his work, it doesn't even, who cares if he doesn't have a solo discography? Andre is the selling point of Outkast. Now, no disrespect to Big Boy, but Andre was the selling point for the greatest hip hop duo of all time. Well, I think the best selling hip hop duo of all time, if I'm not mistaken, and has two, at least, maybe three, you could argue, classic albums, like classics. There's no room, especially in a conversation with T.I., another Southern hip hop legend, for Andre slander, and that pissed me off. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not that invested into it, but like that pissed me off as a hip hop fan. But yeah, I mean, and the last thing I want to say is like Thugger so clearly. And that's the other thing. Like Andre really is not shy to give credit to young Atlanta artists, and Andre has in the past given a nod to Thugger, and just kind of like take that and piss on it, almost like I don't want to say piss on it, but more so just like kind of like throw it out the window. It doesn't that I wouldn't sit well with me if I was Andre. I'm gonna tell you right now, and especially, and you could tell in some ways there are influences on every single Atlanta hip hop artist from Andre. Even the ones that really like the Futures and the Thuggers, who have like a more melodic style of trap music, have kind of like, and personally and now to Young Thug's credit, he has his own influence. I think Young Thug to this still is, and I think I said this in a previous episode, is the most influential hip hop artist of the 2010s, based on the sheer amount of Thugger clones or people or hip hop artists that would not exist without Thugger's influence. However, that roots back even further. Andre 3000 is your favorite rapper's favorite rapper. Not Thugger's, but, or maybe, and even to an extent he is, because Thugger doesn't realize how much the style rubbed off on other artists that rubbed off on him. So that's all I really want to say about the Thugger conversation. Definitely a really like eyebrow raising moment where you didn't expect that to really come out his mouth, because, but then again, like there's a little element of like no surprise there, just because it's Thugger and he's gonna speak his mind no matter what. So God bless Jeffrey, man, because dude, Twitter is a shitstorm right now. They're coming after his fucking neck. Oh my god. But the next thing I want to talk about, NLE Choppa tweeted the other day, and this is, and normally I don't really care about, just like making an entire kind of topic about a single tweet, unless it's like really like life changing. But this is something I found really interesting. I want to talk about kind of like on a broader scale. So NLE Choppa tweeted the other day, basically calling out Famous Dex's label. He's saying they know about his heavy drug usage, and it's no secret that Famous Dex is a hardcore druggie, and he'll do anything from I don't want to kind of put it out there because I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming Xanax, Perks, Molly, all that shit. Especially Xanax and Perks being the focus here, because those are much more lethal than something along the lines like Molly, or obviously marijuana is not lethal. So Choppa basically tagged them both and said, "You owe it to Dex to be looking out for your talent. He is your talent. He is your moneymaker. You owe it to him." Not only as like from like a business perspective, if that isn't enough of an argument, but you owe it to him as a good, as like a good, and this actually searches to the management team as well, in my opinion. I'll get into this in a sec, but he basically owes it to them, to Dex, to look after him. Like, that's a human being at the end of the day. This is why rappers feel like they're animals in cages and use these crazy analogies and similes to compare to basically illustrate what it's like being in a record deal that is not to your benefit. And the crazy part is, again, 300 Entertainment's not doing anything about it, and it's wild. But what I'm trying to say here, Choppa's right, man. Choppa's right, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't really think it's just the job of the label. I think it's the job of obviously their friends, because those are your friends, but even like your management. They are this talent is your livelihood. If that is, and you need him to stay alive and healthy to make music, to make you money. That is simple math. That is simple as enough. As if that isn't enough of an argument. Like, you're around him enough to know he's a human fucking being, and that you have an obligation, whether you want to admit it or not, to look after him. And it just scares me, man, because you look at the amount of hip hop artists we've lost over the last 2 years, 3 years. I think X's death stretched a little longer than 2 years from now, and maybe it's coming up on 3 for all I know. But you've lost X, you've lost Juice, you've lost Peep, you've lost King. Well, King Von was a different situation. Obviously, lots of these artists it wasn't all drugs, but I'm just listening off the top of my dome. Pop Smoke, King Von, NLE Choppa. Oh my goodness, X. Oh, dude, I hope I didn't just speak anything into existence. Knock on wood. X, Juice, Peep, Mac Miller. Like, the list goes on. And at this point, we can't take anything anyone says as a joke. There were people reaching out to Ski Mask the Slump God after he tweeted when Juice died, like, at this point, take me. Like, he basically said that there are people seriously reaching out to him, like, give this man a hug, give this man some support, like, give this man something to fall back on, because he is just going through it right now. He lost X and he lost Juice in less than 2 years. That's heart-wrenching. And so that's, honest to God, we should take this seriously. We should take the mental health and the physical health of artists like Famous Dex that have been saying they're gonna quit drugs, like hardcore drugs, since 2016, but really haven't made strides towards that. That should be a red flag. That should be a red flag if I'm a label CEO or I'm a talent manager, and it's not for them, and that's alarming. That's very alarming, and it should really worry all of us. I swear to God. But that's the last thing I'm going to say on that. Prayers up for, thoughts and prayers up to Dex, and I also shout out to Choppa, because that really needed to be said, because I had not heard anyone like addressing that situation directly prior to then. At least I haven't. So, excuse me. I'm really happy Choppa brought that up in a public nature, because it should be addressed publicly. So the last thing I want to talk about today, guys, is probably the biggest story of all of these. And, oh my goodness, the Weeknd, the Grammys, what the fuck? Abel, did you sleep with someone on the board's, like, wife? Like, what? Here's the thing. So, obviously, if you guys didn't know, The Weeknd did not receive not a single, zilch, not a nilch Grammy nomination for anything he put out this year. So, After Hours and the singles leading up to it and included on it. That's mind-blowing. And I'm going to tell you why. Not solely because it was a critically acclaimed, widely recognized album. Not because of how many units it sold. It's both. It's all the above, and it does not add up. This man literally had to have physically wronged somebody in the committee for them to. You don't just overlook that. There's no way you simply overlook that. And I think the head of the committee actually made a public statement regarding all the nominations the other day, and he probably, I'm sure I'd be shocked if he didn't speak on the outrage of The Weeknd not receiving any nominations. I mean, if an artist as low key as who kind of like keeps his personal life and his own personal thoughts on things so low key as The Weeknd can put publicly on Instagram, Twitter, and all his platforms, you owe my fans and me an apology or an explanation. If he can put that on there, then he's pissed, and he should be. He has every right to be. This is a critically acclaimed album that sold over 500,000 units its first week. Has gone at this point probably double. I don't even know. I don't know the RCIA like certifications of the moment. It's probably got double platinum at this point. Probably triple. If you throwing in Blinding Lights, which has accumulated like a billion streams on Spotify alone. Not only do the numbers speak for themselves, but the general recognition. It's mainstream as hell. And I say that like it's a bad thing, but it's not. And the Weeknd, everyone knows the Weeknd. You have to be living under a rock if you are under the age of 50 and don't know who the Weeknd is at this point. And so for them to just like overlook it is, or ignore it or decline to put him in, it's ridiculous. It's actually insane. This man had to, like I said, this man had to have physically wronged like one of the committee members. It almost sounds like that's the only physical explanation I can come up with. And now after recording this, I'll probably go back and look at what the head of the committee or the head of the board actually said concerning this, if he even did speak on what the Weeknd's nomination or lack thereof. But that still blows my mind. It just doesn't add up. And honestly, they do owe an explanation. I think they will address it. I think he will address it because, if an artist calls out, as big as the Weeknd, calls out publicly on every social media platform, saying I need an explanation, so do my fans, then it seems like they can't really avoid addressing it. So I'm sure we'll see. We'll see as time comes. If there's any clarification on that. If there is already, I'm gonna check it out. But in the meantime, guys, that is actually going to be it for today's episode. I appreciate you all tuning in and listening very much, and I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. Hopefully, I get to see you guys before Christmas because holy shit, this holiday season is gonna be packed. But we have hopefully a lot of new music drops before the end of the year. Looking forward to a few things. Maybe some new Playboi Carti. Hopefully, perhaps another tape. I mean, I know Drake's dropping early 2021, but you got to pray in the chance that maybe he drops a little surprise care package before the end of the year, at least a few more singles. So a lot of stuff to look forward to, especially the fact that it's the end of 2020. So thank you guys so much for watching once again. I am Jack Bender, host of Bar4Bar. Peace out, guys.